I call the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, thank you very much, and I rise to support the Attorney-General and, as far as this bill is concerned, say that I'm not quite as enthusiastic as to the results that he is. In fact, it might now be seen as a bit of a muddling bill, a bill which has fallen halfway between the Law Commission and the current situation. I will get back to that. But what it does do, and I agree with the Attorney-General, is that it makes the law with regard to the payment of salaries and matters relating to the business expenses of members of Parliament, including members of the Executive, clearer and more workable. There is, I think, quite a lot of public apprehension around the setting of members' salaries, allowances and the repayment of their expenses. I think many members of the Parliament think that we decide in this House how the level and, frankly, the constant expression of opinion as to what the changes should be by the Prime Minister don't help very much, because I think the public tend to think that the Remuneration Authority are not independent and there's some sort of obligation for them to listen to the Prime Minister when he makes those comments. Mr Speaker, there are a number of changes here. I want to say that the new clause 17(1)(a)(b), providing for the arrangements for services to take into account particular requirements of members who have physical or sensory impairments. I think it's important that we get that specifically into the legislation in a way that is clear but flexible, because the needs of members with impairments will there'll be a wide variety, but it makes it clear that there are obligations in place. Mr Speaker, I think there will be a number of members of the House who will be somewhat surprised by the fact that up until now there has been no provision to pay members of Parliament who come in from the list in the middle of a term. We've had a number of people where that has occurred, and on some occasions, on a couple of occasions, for some of those individuals, and up until now, there's been no provision to pay them. Now, they have, of course, been paid. They would have complained if they didn't. And what this does is make sure that in the future, anyone who is in that situation is able to get paid. And retrospectively, it's I think it's an okay use of retrospective legislation. It retrospectively validates the payments that have previously been made. Although there are one or two of them where I'd say it might have been better if we hadn't. Mr Speaker, there are provisions with regard to the deduction of members' salaries, and it's the Select Committee took some time to harden up the legislation in this particular area in two ways. We did take into account a number of members who I think might be described as sort of lackadaisical in their attendance to the parliamentary part of their duties as members of Parliament. And what we have suggested, and it's I think that the House will agree, is that unlike the 9 days of absence that the Prime Minister had previously suggested, the committee says that after 3 days. And we're also looking at the salary level of the particular member rather than the salary level of a backbench member as far as those deductions. There will also be a pay deduction when a member is suspended from the House. And I want to say that I've been around for a while, and I'd worked on the assumption. I've never been suspended. I have never, isn't that amazing? Mr Speaker, Mr Speaker, The financial penalty, we think, I'd always thought did apply to people. I thought that if they were out for a day, they lost a day. If they were out for a week, they lost a week. And if they were out till the end of the year, they lost the rest of the pay. Not that that's happened in the time that I've been here. I think the maximum that I've known of is someone who's just been out for a day. But what this makes it clear is you get suspended, you lose a day's pay. And I think that's what the public would expect, and I think that's fine. Mr. Speaker, there's also been what I would describe as a bit of a rort, but other members, I understand, have been working that these were the rules, and that has to do with members' superannuation. Most of us, when we join a superannuation scheme using the arrangements as part of our remuneration, and remembering that the contributions come effectively from our gross remuneration as determined by the Remuneration Authority, most of us put the money in out of our fortnightly pay by way of deduction. There have been some members who have made a decision to do it considerably later, accumulate the interest on that, or otherwise investment, and to top it up right at the end of a period, and thereby get an advantage that wasn't otherwise considered. Now, we don't think that's right, and this will mean that there will be the subsidy won't be payable to members. It won't be able to be backdated for more than 12 months. And Mr. Speaker, I think that's fair enough. The one proviso I will say is that I don't have total confidence in the parliamentary service to get it right, Mr. Speaker. I've had experience myself with superannuation deductions that they unilaterally stopped, and we then had to sort out. And in fact, what? They thought they might have thought I've gone, and in fact I've got quite a lack of confidence even in the current day with the parliamentary service and their handling of arrangements, reimbursement arrangements for members. I mean the parliamentary service sent my bank account details to Vodafone recently. They sent the slip that we get with the reimbursement of our travel arrangements. They sent that along with my bank account numbers off to Vodafone. So I'm just saying, yes, and quite surprised I was when I found that out. Not that happy, Mr. Speaker. I do want to say that there is a bit of a muddle in this arrangement now, and I want to give the example of a minister, say the Prime Minister, was in Wellington, travelled to Christchurch, stayed overnight before going on an overseas trip. The flight to Wellington, from Wellington to Christchurch, or Auckland to Christchurch, the arrangements for that would be determined in the responsibility of the Speaker. The overnight accommodation in Christchurch, waiting for the early flight to go out the next morning, would be the responsibility of the Remuneration Authority, and the overseas travel the next morning would be the responsibility of ministerial services. Now, I think it's fair to say that's a bit of a muddle, and will in the end lead to confusion. My last comment I want to make to the Greens, and I want to make it in particular to the co-leader, Materia Ture, and say to her that she voted in the committee for every clause and every amendment that was made. She voted for it. And I say to her to come to the House now, having not given a peep in opposition, not a peep in opposition, so she was a lamb in the committee, a support, not a word, not a whisper, and to come to this House now with a set of amendments attempting to reverse that is an indication of someone who is either not properly on top of their job or is a political grandstander. And I say to her that if you've got the courage of your convictions, vote in the select committee.
Order.
If the member believes in something, vote that way in the select committee. Be consistent and don't come to the House and change your mind.
I call the